Okay, so welcome to your session. Welcome to your time for some somatic movement, exploring yourself, whatever's going to show up in this moment. And this session is focusing on returning to flow. So there's a flow that takes place with our functional movement when we move in the way that we're designed. But this natural flow of movement gets interrupted through unconscious patterns. So, this chronic muscle tension that we're always coming back to and exploring how and where it might be getting in the way and interrupting our flow. And the strength of this can really accumulate over time. We can get really, really good at this, which means that as our holding patterns increase and get stronger, our flow and ease of movement can reduce. If you think of it like a set of scales, if we've got more hidden holding tension, we tend to flow less and move with less ease. So it's about restoring that balance, coming back to flow. And this isn't about doing anything new. We don't have to do anything new in order to restore our function. So you could think of it as actually we're just unveiling what our essence and what our function is. We're just unveiling our flow. So it's actually a peeling away and a doing less rather than thinking, oh, I've got to do something new here in order to feel okay. So, thinking about this idea of flow, and this can show up in lots of different ways in our lives, give yourself a moment just to consider, when do you feel in flow? And that might be a question that brings nothing up other than confusion. Well, I'm not really sure what I mean by flow. But when do you, if ever, when do you feel in flow? Is there a particular feeling or activity when you feel most in flow? How do you know that you're in flow? So, how does it feel? What do you notice about yourself when you feel like you're flowing in whatever it is that you're doing? And then let's consider how that shows up here and now. So, if you come and lay yourself down onto your back, make yourself comfortable. Just give yourself a moment to find What's, what's the most comfortable way of laying on your back here and now? In order to return to our natural flow, our natural movement and rhythm of life, requires a cultivation of self-awareness. That's really what we cultivate in our practice, being self-aware. And the ground can help us to check in with that. So just begin to explore and inquire about how you're meeting the ground here and now. Can you get a sense of your contact with the floor? And that might be very clear and obvious through some parts of you, and it might be quieter or more muted in other parts. And as you lay here, gently guiding your awareness to your sensations, to what you can feel, is there any sense of flow as you lay here? And we might equate flow with an intentional action. But might that be showing up in any way for you here and now? Is there any sense of flow through the back of you against the ground? Maybe through the back of your shoulder blades or lower down your rib cage. Maybe around your lower back or the back of hips. What sense of flow do you feel inside of you? Can you get a sense of the flow of life? So the rhythm of your breath, the flow of your blood, oxygen. And if you place your hands on your belly, is there a sense of flow under your hands? And if there is, how do you know? What are you feeling that would suggest some kind of flow of breath or energy and movement? And if you bring your hands up onto your lower ribs, is there more or less flow here? So we're just exploring and inquiring. We're not looking for a particular answer, but notice if you're tempted to. And then taking your hands higher onto your chest, what do you feel here? Is there more or less flow through different parts of your front? And then if comfortable, what if you take your hands round to the sides of your rib cage? Is there a sense of flow through the sides of you? You might notice more flow or movement through one side than the other. And it can help us to start to feel and experience where the flow is being interrupted and where our muscles might be holding and functioning in different patterns. And then if you rest your arms down, take your awareness round to the back of your rib cage again and notice, is there any more information there as you lay here against the ground? Do you feel any clearer through the back of you now? And then let's start to explore some more deliberate movement. So if your legs are straight, slide up your feet to bend your knees. And we're just going to explore some free movement back and forth. So we're not coming into our 3 steps of tightening, releasing, and resting. We're just going to flow with some movement to begin with to see what's there. So it might help to think about your pelvis as being like a ball that will roll back and forth towards your feet and towards your head. So could you begin to allow that? Just flowing back and forth like a ball, just gently rolling one way and then the other way. Choosing the pace and the range of movement that you want to. And how much effort does it take in this moment to allow your pelvis just to roll and flow back and forth? Is there a feeling of pushing and pulling the pelvis back and forth? Does it feel like it gets a little stuck? Does that flow get interrupted in places? Just exploring how much effort it seems to take to play with that. And as you flow back and forth a few more times, how much of the rest of you is flowing with your pelvis? Where do you feel the echo of this rolling of your pelvis? Does it affect your legs and your feet? Does it affect up through your torso to your head? How is this happening without any deliberate involvement with other parts of you? And then once you've explored that enough times to get a sense of it in this moment, get a sense of your flow, take a rest somewhere in between where there's no conscious effort. And then let's start to release those places that interrupt. So bringing your awareness a little higher up through the top part of your pelvis where it meets your belt line, your waistline. And could you begin to pick the back of your belt line up from the floor? So you increase and exaggerate that little arch of your lower back. And as you do, it's going to send your belly up and out. And can you feel that same rolling forward of your pelvis towards your feet? Focus on the back of your belt line. And with that awareness, could you deliberately soften and release the arch? As many breaths as it takes till you're at rest. And then go ahead and explore that arch again, picking up the back of your belt line. And can you feel a deliberate contraction and tightening of your lower back muscles here? And if you can't, could you do what is needed in order to feel them tighten more? Notice where you're feeling that, and then deliberately release it with awareness back to no effort. And then could you sink into the opposite movement of the flatten? So could you now round your lower back, the back of your belt line into the floor? And as your lower back rounds and opens, could you sink your belly back to your spine? And can you feel how that rolls your pelvis towards your head now? Without any effort in your back, could you just soften and release your belly? It's not a new movement, it's just a releasing. Coming back to rest. And then go ahead and sink into that flatten again. And can you, from the inside, feel an actual tightening of your tummy? And if you can't feel that, what do you need to do to feel it? So deliberately feel a tightening of your belly and then change your mind. Take the choice to soften and relax. Notice where you land. Do you pull yourself into an arch, or can you land at a place of rest? And then roll yourself back into your arch. And can you feel the upper part of your spine follow? Can you feel your chin lower down? Let it flow along with this tightening of your back muscles, and then release your back on purpose. Feel them soften to release the whole length of your spine. And then as you sink into your flatten and feel the increased tension in your belly, can you allow your head to flow along? Tipping your chin up on purpose if it doesn't happen freely. The flow might have got interrupted here. And then can you soften your belly to release your neck? You're just turning down a dimmer switch back to off. And then as you roll into your arch, could you notice the space in between your belt line and your head? So notice your rib cage. As you roll into your arch, can the back of your ribs begin to lift from the floor too? Can you feel your chest widen along with your belly? And then where do you need to soften your back to flow back to rest? Let yourself visit that perhaps unfamiliar place for a breath or two. And then as you sink into your flatten and your chin tips up, could you let the front of your ribs sink back as well with your belly? Can you feel an opening of the back of your ribs and a sinking and tightening of the front? You could always put your hands on your ribs to feel, actually, is that happening? Am I doing what I think I'm doing? Maybe not. And then where do you want to release your front from first? Is it the belly? Is it the chest? Softening and releasing back to rest. And then go ahead and explore one more of each of these movements. And this time, could you get a sense of what happens down through your legs to your feet? As you roll into your arch, what sensations do you feel through your legs? What if you were to let your heels lift up? Does it help to flow the movement from center all the way down to toes? Notice the flow of the release. Does it flow? Does it get interrupted? And then as you explore one more flatten, again, notice what flow from your belly and chest reaches down through your legs. What if you were to sink into your heels now, letting the soles of your feet float up? Does it help to flow a little more? And notice any interruptions to the flow of your release. And then when you've finished your last one and you can find a place where there is as little conscious effort through your front and your back as is accessible right now. It's like you've just deflated back to rest. And then could you return to that flowing, rolling back and forth? Thinking of your pelvis as being like a ball. And notice the sense of flow here and now. Has it changed? Can you enjoy this flow of rolling back and forth? Almost like a wave. How has the effort or the feeling of flow changed after those movements to release any interruptions to flow? How has it changed for you? Does it feel freer? And then take a rest when you've explored that. And give yourself a moment to just feel the echo of everything you've just explored there. And that might be a sense of within, or it might be about your contact with the ground. If you notice that there was an increased flow after your arch and flatten movements, what effect does that have on your sensations here and now? Maybe that's more obvious or significant in certain parts of you. So now we're going to explore a little more movement through our chest and upper back, connecting down to our hands. So we use our arms and our hands so much throughout the day. If we can flow freely and comfortable from our center, it will make a lot of activities and tasks more comfortable and easier. So bending up your knees if your legs are straight. And just as we did with that rolling of the pelvis, we're just going to explore some roll